So I noticed this trend, right? The world has been truly obsessed with the external, like superficial surface shit, like just the external stuff. I say that to say this is because I'll use the housing market. I was telling someone, I'm like, you have to realize the original builders, let's say of the market, of some of these homes and so forth, they're either no longer here, they're literally dying away. And what I mean by that, you're talking about like, I'll give you an example, like a lot of old homes that had old electricity. The reason why this is so vital is because of um, whoever built it. Most likely is not alive, and then what is not talked about, how it takes so much effort to go in the house and to rip out all that old electricity, plumbing, and all those things that have built the house, in its original state. A lot of contractors, a lot of people who do a lot of these things will never tell you about those things. The reason I say how even the boomers, how the obsession with external. When I've noticed, like when you go into a neighborhood, I naturally can pick up on the energy of people who are like this competitive thing, this ego thing, how they just naturally try to like make everything look perfect. Whose yard's the best? Whose house the best? Who's the biggest? And I've told you this has a lot to do with performance. And I recognize this with going to even some of the biggest neighborhoods. Also living in some of the, living in the Bay Area, living in, visiting areas where it's the most expensive place to live. And I've noticed, again, a trend, or I noticed a similar energy. The blueprints are the same, houses and so forth. So the personalities of the people are the same. The way they conduct business, a lot of things is the same. Their focus is just focus on, which, I'm not obliged to or objecting to, like protecting the community, focusing on that and so forth and all that. Go ahead, let's see. Oh, you know what? That's when we were leaving out, when the weather was like that.
Yeah. So I told the lady, I said, I have not spoken to her, I'm not putting my team members like that.
He's an a-hole, bro.
And, he told everybody that I was smoking. And then he said after he left, he took a smoke, they took some kind of stuff, and he told Karen. He was going and working, like, I hate these guys. Well, then don't come here and work. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then go find a new job.
But that's all they have. That Van Buren boy. Ooh. So yeah, what I was continuing to say, it's wild. I was just ran into an elder that was just telling about her situation when it came to what she went through, like with the housing. Whoa, it's wild how I'm just talking about this and then come across somebody at that time that I met in the shelter. She was telling me about her situation. But anywho, she was just telling me, like, again, I'm expressing to y'all again, like, the odd obsession with external things. Like, that can be like the obsession with like money, material stuff. So again, I'm using the housing market as an example because how so many people are just so focused on, like, it gotta look a certain way, everything gotta be perfect. And this pretty much reflects the internal world of people and what is valuable to them. And again, to each their own, but what is it reflects their core values. So again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it brings a lot of attention to a lot of these houses, a lot of things that have happened that they won't tell you about, because it is wild how pricing can go up, but then a lot of these homes are subjected to, because of the old build, a lot of these homes are subjected to a lot of mold and a lot of things that aren't discussed. So that's something that, again, is not talked about or brought to a lot of people's attention. Even people who are in like real estate and so forth, a lot of these communities, there's a lot of things going on where a lot of these people who built the homes are not being able to, upkeep them or keep them upkept, whatever you call it. And a lot of them are elders. And if they're not being sent to a home or something like that, you're pretty much having other people raise them or until their older age and so forth. And again, if you pay attention to the system, and again, how it's just focused on how things are, how it looks, not the well-being of it, not the internal aspect of it. And the reason why this is so vital, it shows you how the world is collapsing. People's world is ending from the inside out, because you cannot destroy something from the outside in. Like I said, I walked past the house, I was like, wow, that renovation looks amazing. But you will never know the depths of, again, electrical work, plumbing, the things that behind the scenes, or the grounding, the blueprint of all of those things that take effect in what you see on the surface. So again, that being said, is a representation of what you see in leadership, that blueprint, what you see how people treat other people, how you see people. Again, there's a blueprint to all of it, to what you see displays on the surface. And it doesn't matter how many people want to ignore what, that's what can no longer be ignored. Again, the housing and all this shit reflects an internal aspect of what people built things on, and the intention behind it, the details and all that. Some things can look so beautiful, but at the same moment, you don't know the vices, you don't know the wickedness, you don't know what was built beyond that shit or behind it. So this is why you're seeing, again, the reason I say to focus on just things externally has a lot to do with what you're seeing now play out in the physical. Again, back to the housing market thing, you're seeing how, who owns what on the grander scale, behind the scenes, it being centered around greed, it being centered around who gets what loan, who gets more support, and so forth. Different classes, different people, interest rate, things being exposed about how third parties, people who have used the people, their money. I mean, it's so deep. I'm telling you, but long as it looks good on paper. And that's what you've been seeing, a representation of what this country reflects. Again, long as the person looks good, they look like they're up to par, they look like they can do this, they look. But there's no depth to it. There's no integrity. There's nothing that reflects, again, core value. Because if looks is just everything, and so forth, then look how far it got us. Look how far it's gotten people. This person has to be the most attractive. Look how things are presented to our children. That's why I was getting at it, even in regards to the more focus on the external, like things looking a certain way, and how that is presented to children, through media, through a lot of things structurally. That's presented a certain way. Let's lure them in certain ways. And what was the other one? That even goes back to how misleading it can be, how people, if they look a certain way, and we present this to the parents or the guardians a certain way, then we'll get them. It's never, again, what has been more focused on the internal level, and that's what's been exposed throughout so many things systematically right now. You're seeing shit being gut out. It's being gutted. It's being stripped. So it ain't even gonna be, it ain't, new order of things, the way things are moving forward has nothing to do with, it ain't just how it looks. And that's how a lot of people are gonna approach life. They're gonna realize, like, it's not to say that, like, it's what like the product that what's been produced. And that's what you're seeing. I was like, man, you go to certain neighborhoods, or you go to certain places, it's like, man, it's so much of an obsession with how things gotta look perfectly. That right there to me gives off very narcissistic and controlling. Because if you try to control what goes into certain neighborhoods, and if this neighborhood is getting more resources, this has to be a certain way. Again, that's alarming for me. For people in that neighborhood who, if things aren't a specific certain way, it just gives off like, not militant, but very like perfectionist, which can be very dangerous. It has to be, you know, the performance things I've told you about. Very performing. So yeah, man, this boy, it was something else I wanted to dive into again when it comes to like, yeah, even with again, systematically schools and structures and religion, church, a lot of different things that you're seeing now, the eye obsession now, people get so consumed by trying to look a certain way. At a time, and if you pay attention to patterns, at a time, certain people didn't dress a certain way when it comes to whether it's a pastor, preacher. Certain things didn't look so much as what they call it worldly. Now you can't ignore the patterns of realizing it's like a trend. They got to keep up with the trend. They got to see what else. You know how that saying goes, like sex sells. It's like they got to do whatever it is to sell out themselves or to give off, to make it look perfect, just so they can reel whatever in, pull people in, to make sure the message get across. But again, due to the fact that people are so focused on superficial and surface shit, there is no depth to them. There's no depth. It's like you can change the exterior like a chameleon, but there's no depth to them. And so this is why it's so interesting how certain communities can look so perfect. They'll come and renovate things. They'll come do certain things, or some communities are always upkept other than others. To me, and the funny thing about that, I feel like those are the most corrupted. Those perfect communities that are like, what are you really hiding? What are you keeping from the world? And that's the same thing with, again, going to the performance thing. It's not to say you cannot dress the part, look the way you feel. I'm talking about the underlying energy. I'm talking about the energy, the things beyond the surface that cannot be hidden no more. Hey, little puppies, y'all so cute. Hey, woo-woo. But yeah, so, and again, that's what's so, again, like recognizing certain neighborhoods to where, like, why this neighborhood get this treatment and this neighborhood doesn't? Like I said, y'all don't know a lot of the shit that goes on behind the scenes of that. And again, that's the thing about how the greed, the gluttony, the obsession with superficiality, like the money thing. I'm not saying it's not great to have these things or to have structure with it. It's just how, again, the resourcing, like how certain things have been only given, to a certain thing, certain people, or certain whatever it is, what's feeding it. And then again, this is what's collapsing, because it was built on that to protect whatever it is, behind that. So again, the housing market I'm using perfectly is because the depths of that is how it was built, who it was built for, why it was created. When you look at the structures in place behind that, now as you see a collapse in it, you see so much of people trying to rush the overhaul that I talked about probably about a year ago. The overhaul, it's like this burnout energy to look a certain way, but there's no substance, there's no value in what they're doing and what is being portrayed. Again, an illusion, the illusion of performance. That's why I say that I can use so many different ways. Again, the housing market is one perfectly. People don't even know the effects of even how mold affects people. Research it. Their mood, their lungs, their respiratory system, whatever you call it. The nervous system. There's so many different things. You got elders being affected by it. It's so many different things, again, that that is happening for the betterment of all the collapse. All this energy has exposed itself to show you what it was created on. If it wasn't built on genuine and all these other, what I'm gonna tell you now, I feel like most of a lot of homes, depending on the environment, that again, people who haven't been able to go and fix up on stuff, most of those houses are, again, they're renovated, but they're again, anybody that knows, I have a homeboy, he does electrician work, my dad does plumbing, all these different things that people don't know that goes into, building a home. And again, what's happening is that collapse shows the fact of, on many levels, of how energetically what it was built on. The greed. Not built upon empathy. The reason why this is so vital right now is to expose, but then to expand on the fact of, as we become elders, as we grow, then our children and so forth, they're not going to be a part of this. There's going to be so much to go around, but notice how that, there's going to be so much of a high demand. Y'all don't realize there's going to be so much of a high demand on carpentry, plumbing, so many different other things, because folks don't realize, people are leaving this world. And so it's going to call for people to rebuild, recreate. So other than just becoming, focusing on the money, the surface stuff, it's really the values and different layers that are going to, what's being unlayered and being revealed. What really now, what is your intention? Or what are you going to create? What type of like-minded individuals? How, learning to live amongst each other. What are you going to create? We are in the shift, rebuilding things, building people, because I told y'all, when it comes to, again, the energy of what the split or separation is happening from the wheat from the chaff, it is revealing the fact of how people are going to, right now, I told you, some of these homes, a lot of these houses most likely have mold. homes that are built near like rivers. I'll use Ohio for instance. Homes that are built near a lot of that deal with a lot of moisture or year-round, built near rivers that have a lot of basements, they are subjected to mold, black mold. Mold grows. It affects so many different things. Now you have a lot of elders, again, because most of these homes, depending on the community, are built, are like what someone was telling me the other day that her home was built in 1926. You do the math. Isn't that almost like 100 fucking years? 50 years? I don't know. I ain't finna, you know what I'm getting at. Do the math on that. So now imagine the plumbing 50, 60, 70, 90, 100 years ago. Okay, now you can't just exclude that. Go with the energy of what the home was built on. The energy, meaning like, how did people come into that? What type of community was it built on? What type of energy? Okay, other than that, what type of belief system? Belief systems on keeping people that are indigenous or darker out. Okay, other than that, let's elaborate more. Now, what the fuck is going on? Let's elaborate more on the fact of, again, the energy. Okay, now when you break it down in layers, systematically, what type of family structures were there? What did the patriarchal represent? What did the matriarchal represent? Now, think about how certain 1980s or whatever it is, again, these are the same homes that have been here. Think about all the different families that have come here. Think about the drugs. Think about, again, a lot of things that are not discussed. A lot of things that are hidden. Or, again, doesn't matter if it's hidden physically, it's the energy of what's surfacing and what cannot be ignored. So now, if you think about all the things that have been repressed and suppressed for so long, these things can no longer be hidden. These things can no longer be pushed down and pushed away. Think about all the families and shit that went through stuff before drugs. Like I said, I met a lady that she said she lived somewhere 25 years. 25 years. And I was like asking her, what happened before? Was it always like this? We know, no, of course. So now in asking that, it's like for some of them, being that they probably are part of the boomer generation or even after that, they have, you know, what's rooted in their belief system is the same thing. God damn, that's like, man, what am I looking for? But again, these are belief systems that have been rooted so long. The energy of even how, what the policing and everything else were built on. People are ignoring the fact of not only the lack of empathy, but the belief system on what the energy of how communities were built, the luxury around everything that people want to obtain and collect, the luxury around so many different things of what they feel is valuable, what they feel is acceptable. Even religious, I said, what they feel, you know, so many different things. So now we're seeing a shift in things that are changing. We are the ones who have to shift with it. There's no opposition. I mean, that's how you will be perceived as opposition to the system or the structures or everything that's in place. And what comes with that is you having to walk in integrity, recreate, reinvent, even go through the emotions and so much shit around your identity because of, again, what you have sometimes unconsciously or even learned behavior patterns depending on what generation you grew up in, especially after boomers. So that can't be ignored. So again, now I'm just walking and creating this shit. This shit is beautiful. Now, again, the on so many different layers, that's the shit that cannot be ignored. What you will be called to do is what your heart, what's in alignment with your heart and soul for, what's in alignment with your soul's essence, what's in alignment with your truth. And with that, again, as people pull away, more things start to collapse. But then things become lighter because you take I'm gonna use the word pride, but it's just as much as your grandmother, great grandmother, them took pride in whatever they built on whatever soil, whatever land. No matter who it is, the same way the energy has to go out that way. The energy has to go in and go out. And so you're talking about grandfather, think about, for one, people who grew up in this shit and don't see no escape, don't see no way out. So what's end up happening is that they become oppressed by the same system, no matter their creed and color. And then not only that, they begin to repress it even more through their careers, through everything else. Then they begin to suppress it over time, more and more and more. So now what ends up happening is that throughout so many generations, now they're hoarding even more rage and anger. And so now you put these people in career settings and all this other stuff, and what ends up happening when they don't face themselves, when they don't honor who they are, when they don't live in their truth, because they never saw someone live it, then what ends up happening is what? It implodes and explodes on everyone else. It affects everyone else around them. They begin to destroy the very thing that they created, or the very thing that they uphold and honor so much, to where, again, they begin to be a representation of their forefathers, their ancestors, their grandmothers, and so forth. And you be the judge, or be the, where I'm getting at, of who you want to put in that ballot or that position. Because again, this is what you're seeing, collectively play out. So I use the housing market as one, but this can happen on so many different levels, and it's already doing it. That's why it's collapsing from the highest peak, like say, of the mountain, and then all the way down to the roots. So that's the thing. So a lot of these moments, like, it ain't so much of just trusting, it's trusting yourself and your intuition, and relying on simply a lot of those things. That's not survival. Once you start to realize that the people who are comfortable in a lot of shit are the ones who really are in survival. So it's not gonna make sense to people who, when you are building something, trusting your intuition, creating something that's never been before seen or unfamiliar to the natural eye, there has to be a delayed gratification, or there won't be a clap. There won't be a lot of things, because to them, they're not going to support it. They're not going to honor it until, for a lot of them, it's tangible. It's tangible, or to them, because again, for so focused on more superficiality or physical shit, it doesn't matter to them until they see it. That's for a lot of grandmothers, great grandmothers. If you got elders that are alive, none of that shit gonna matter. It's like talking to a brick wall sometimes. Not all of them, but majority. Because again, they're gonna hold tight to performance. They're gonna hold tight to upkeeping, even if it almost unalives them. They're gonna work hard. They're gonna do all of these things to make sure that whatever it is, that they built on, is going to stand the test of time. So that energy is going to play out through their grandkids if they're not able to face and heal and do, inner work. It's going to play out, and that's what you're going to see, mainly the collapse in what y'all call the America as you knew it, or even the countries around it. Because the thing about it is that what happens here affects everything. And that's what you're seeing play out in other countries with leadership and so forth. The old world, the world as they knew it, is ending. I see it all the time when I see the rush, the panic, the silent panic, almost. You can even see those lights. It's so funny how they showed up on here. So that's all I got for y'all. Y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.